Hey, you guys, it's Denise Walsh here. And I always say I'm super excited to share this topic with you. But this topic that we are going to talk about today is not super exciting, yet it's super real, and all of us go through it. So, here at Coaching for Coaches, I want to give you tools that you can utilize immediately with your clients and grow yourself, right? Because we want to be the best version of ourselves so we can show up for our families, we can show up for our clients in a really positive and impactful way. And the way that we do that is by going through the work ourselves first. So I'd love to hear in the comments if you could share where you're from, what you're looking like. If you've had a grief moment that you've overcome as well, we'd love to hear a little bit about your story. So joining me next is a dream life coach who has experienced something no parent should or wants to experience. She has experienced the loss of a child. And if any of you out there have experienced such deep loss, you know the deep pit of grief that we are then catapulted in, whether we like it or not. And now it's our journey to walk through that pit and get to the other side. And now that she has grown through grief, she is determined to use this experience for good and utilize the space to support others on their grief walk as well. So, big welcome to Kimberly Meyer. Yay!
Hello.
I know this is a tricky subject. It's like I'm so excited to hear your story and I'm so excited to talk to you about it, but it's not an exciting topic.
Well,
So,
it's not something we ever want to have to talk about. So,
no, it's not. It's not, but it's so real and it's so raw and almost everybody has had a grief moment like this, whether it's this specific situation or not. We all can resonate with that deep pain of grief. So I first want to hear a little bit about your story and your grief journey, and then we'll talk more about what brought you into wanting to use this experience to help others now.
yeah, a lot of times we think about grief as being the loss of a loved one, and that's certainly my experience. But it could be the loss of moving, or loss of a pet, or loss of a job, or career, or a dream. My dad recently went through this because he's in his 80s and he's having to give up what he used to be able to do in life, give up his animals on the farm, and give up. My mom's got dementia, so he's going through, that adjustment that his wife's not, who she used to be. And when I told him, hey, you're grieving, he's like, whoa, I never thought about it like that. So, but my grief journey was the loss of my son. My son Josh passed away on August 19th, 2022. And after a bout of health issues the preceding months and a health scare the year before, um, obviously not a club anybody wants to belong to. But as I went through that grief experience, I realized that over the decades preceding that and all the other grief things that I had gone through, that I had developed some skills that allowed me to move through that um, better than I would have been able to do before. But yeah, into the depths of grief, the sadness, the anger, the guilt, the regret. Did I do enough? Did I pray enough? All those kinds of things. Um, and then just, I think because I had had grief experiences before, I realized there was hope. I did not have to stay in that pit of despair forever. Um, but I could make the choice to work through that and to find meaning again in my life. And that's why I moved towards the coaching.
Hmm. What I heard you say too is you're right. Grief is not just the loss of a family member,
Mhm.
although it can be. I used to
Mhm.
say when I was working with clients in mental health that it's truly any sort of like pivot in your a life pivot that
Mhm.
you didn't choose.
Right.
And then even sometimes we do choose it. We do choose to move, but that doesn't mean we're not experiencing grief for what we're leaving behind. So there's certainly a lot of times in our life where we're experiencing this sadness and this grief. And you can do a few things, right? You can choose to stuff it and just pretend like
Mhm.
everything's fine. We work with a lot of people who are like, I'm fine, everything's fine, the house is on fire, but I'm
Mhm.
fine. And so for those of you that have tried that, right? Stuff, oftentimes you then blow. And stuffing is not a solution. It does not just go away. Putting it under the rug does not actually hide that emotion. It still shows up in other areas of your life. And so you can either stuff it or you can process it and kind of deal with those emotions and come forward on the other side. And it sounds like throughout those past experiences, you developed tools that you then relied on when this huge grief experience showed up in your life.
Yes, for sure. I had learned, I had my own mental health struggle a while back. I went through a divorce. I went through a layoff. My dad committed suicide. I mean, so there were a lot of things over the years that I developed those tools to cope and process and move through those emotions so that I didn't stay stuck. And I realized that they don't teach us that in school, right? Nobody teaches us how to deal, in most cases, with those emotions and those thoughts and those feelings. And then all of a sudden, we're hit with a devastating loss, and it's like a tsunami took us under, right? We're reeling, it's throwing us around, and we don't know what to do at that point. And so I thought, I think God prepared me for such a time as this, is kind of what I felt, and gave me those tools that I could use myself, but also that I could share with others so that they don't stay stuck in that grief. They don't stay there forever or longer than they choose to stay in that grief.
So there's a few ways you can handle grief. And that includes any sort of traumatic experience, right? You're going to have grief. Number one, you can stuff it, which is pretend it's not there. Number two, you can go down a negative rabbit hole, right? And so this is where I often say cooking is my coping skill. Like, we want to hide in bed and have a jar of keto that we're just, binging on, and we want to hibernate, and we want to recluse, or there's alcohol or drug or other negative coping skills that utilize to numb and escape. Or we can choose positive coping skills. And this is where we get in community and we talk about what's happening, and we voice our concerns, and we build a life we love, even in the midst of that sadness. So share with us a few of the positive coping skills that were already at your fingertips. Like, thank goodness you already have them at your fingertips. And then when you went through this catastrophic grief, you were reminded of them and used them quickly.
Yeah, you're kind of breaking up for me, but I think I got most of that. So some of the skills that I had developed, especially with my own mental health, I had been catastrophizing and going, spinning. My thoughts were spinning and spinning and spinning, and everything was worse and worse and worse. And we can do that in grief as well. But I learned how to identify the thought that was driving that and the thought traps that were there, and to work around those and to see what was really happening, what was behind that, what other perspective could I take. And that's a big thing that we do in the grief coaching is, well, what if this happened? Or what if this is what they meant? Or what if they, this was the best way they could cope? Because people say stupid things all the time to people who are grieving, and it can really hurt. But that was one of the big things that I had learned. But when I went through the coaching program and the 90-day U-turn, learning about tapping was really important. Breath work. I've gotten a lot into the breath work to calm our nervous system, because we can't process if we're in fight or flight. So calming our nervous system so that we can think again. So it validated a lot of the skills that I had learned, because I wasn't confident in those. And that's why I wanted to go through Your Dream Life Coaching certification. But it supported what I had learned and gave me that confidence. And it also taught me so many other tools as well that are just so important. Releasing guilt, releasing anger, because even though you've lost someone, you can still be angry with them for some of the choices that they may have made. So all a very important processing through our grief.
Yeah. And sometimes people will tell me, I know I need to process grief, or I know I need healing on some level, but I don't know how to do that on my own. which again,
Right.
we're not taught that, and it's not something you can just read a book and do. Like the hands-on experiential of here's an exercise, let's do it together. Here's an exercise, let's do it together. Knowing how much it supported you in that journey. And so it sounds like there are two main ways that you work through your grief. One was with your thoughts, because again, we can go down a whole rabbit hole of thoughts that aren't true, right?
Yeah.
And so we want to take them captive. We want to analyze our thoughts. We want to decide what we want to think, what's actually helpful. But then also you did some behavioral things. You did tapping, you did breath work. I know walking, journaling, getting in community. There's behavioral things that you can utilize. You joined 90 Day U-Turn. You chose to come to the retreats. Like you put yourself in community. So tell us a bit about some of the behavioral coping skills that you did that were helpful.
Yeah, a lot of that was the journaling I kind of do off and on, but it's important when you feel that intense emotion to get it out. So you can journal or you can scribble. I used artwork as well. Painting was something that you can use to get that emotion out. Also, the breath work I find really, really important for that, and grounding techniques as well. Because when you're in fight or flight, you can't think. Because your brain is on overdrive. And so getting that calm back down. So all of those are really important skills and tools. And the hypnosis as well, I found to be very helpful as part of what we learned.
Yeah, that really deepens the healing journey. What we find is when you take your thoughts captive, what we think about, and then we do something different, that shifts our feelings. So oftentimes people will say, well, when I feel better, I'll X, Y, Z. When I feel better, but your feelings don't switch first. It's your behavior, and then your thoughts, and then your feelings. And so having those tools at your toolbox really allowed you to navigate your son's passing much quicker. And so you realized during that time that you wanted to support other people on their grief journey too. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, as I was saying earlier, when I was navigating through that, it's like, oh, you're so strong. Oh, you're so strong. It's like, well, maybe on the outside, but I'm still very devastated and sad on the inside. But I realized that a lot of people, especially when I joined some of the Facebook groups on grief, that a lot of people, it's been years and years and they're still stuck in the same place. And I realized that God had given me those tools, and I think he wants me a calling to use that for other people. It's like, you don't have to stay stuck in that. That's kind of a myth that we hear in our culture, is that you're going to be sad and grieving and in that pit of despair forever. And you are going to be sad. There will be moments of sadness. I had one a few weeks ago when a new restaurant opened that my son and I loved. It was like, oh, okay. But those are moments of sadness. You don't have to stay in that pit of despair forever. Your heart, as you learn to carry the grief in your heart, and it gets smaller as you learn to carry it, but you can also heal your heart as you go forward and as you release some of those emotions, and you learn how to do that. And I think it's so important that people know there is hope. A lot of people don't feel like there is, but know that there is hope, and that they can develop or build a new life, even though it's going to be different. It can still have joy, and it can still be happy. And a lot of people, I think, resist that because they feel guilty for being happy, because their loved one's gone, or they feel like if they move forward, they're going to have to leave that person behind. And that's totally not the truth. You bring them with you in your heart forever. It's kind of like Mother's Day is coming up, and I'm like, it's still Mother's Day for me, for Josh. He's still my baby. He's still my son. I'm still his mom. And I'm going to celebrate that on Mother's Day. So you bring them with you. And I think it's giving people that knowledge and that permission that, yes, you can heal. And it's a choice. You have to make the choice to move forward and heal.
One of the things that I love about your program and the communities that you're creating is that you're giving people a space to get outside their own head, because again, somebody might, these calendar triggers happen all the time. There's holidays and the anniversaries and all these things that pop up. And so it can be very easy to stay in grief because
Mhm.
another trigger is right around the corner.
Yeah,
But what you're doing is you're allowing people the space to say, all right, well, I don't want to stay triggered. So what other options do I have?
right.
How can I go to that restaurant in memory of him? How
Mhm.
can I, buy flowers from him and put them on my counter and, tell Josh that I am so grateful to be his mom? And how can you, oh, you're doing Legos. There you go.
How can I make a Lego set? Because he loved Legos.
There
So,
you go. I love it. And that's not something we can think of on our own if we're stuck in
Mhm.
grief and we're, just inside of our own space. So to have a coach and a community that can process your brainstorm together and then talk about how it went afterwards. Uh, Talking about your experience after is really, really helpful too.
yeah, I mean, it's important that as you said, all those triggers are kind of going to come about. So, how do you make a plan or lay out what your new normal is going to look like? Because it is going to be different than what it was before. There may be some things from before that you want to keep. There may be some things that you don't want to keep, especially during the first year or two as you're going through grief in the holidays. Maybe I don't make his favorite meal because I know that's going to be too upsetting, right? But maybe I do something else. So helping to think through what those are and to work with your family to think through what those are, to navigate those milestones and to, you know, what is it going to look like going forward and how am I going to keep them alive in my heart, but also enjoy those moments. And when I think of those moments, instead of them bringing me sadness, bringing me happiness as I cherish the time that we did have.
Absolutely. And so I know you have a free Facebook group that you'll be launching as well. And your oh, oop, there you are. Your community group. My internet is being wonky, so I don't know what to do about that. But
I know I'm trying to hear.
uh-oh. Okay.
I'm back.
Yeah. So I want people to know how they can connect with you. I know you've got a free Facebook group coming. You're opening up the doors to your program here soon. Tell us how they can connect with you. And I also know that your program is not just about behavior or your thoughts. It's about your health too, because again, we cannot live in the world of dreams if we don't feel good. And so taking care of
Exactly.
ourselves, and when we're going through grief, we want to hibernate and we don't want to take care of ourselves. So that's another part of the coping skills, is taking care of our health too. So tell us more.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really excited because this week I'm going to be launching my new Facebook group, and hopefully I can get the name I want, Grief Support and Healing After Loss. So stay tuned for that. I'll be, letting folks know that that's open. I'll be putting that together and launching that this week because community is so important so that you know you're not alone and you don't have to go through this alone. And it'll be a place of hope where you can come in with hope and get the skills and get the community and training as well. And it is also about health. And a lot of times when we're in grief, we're not taking care of ourselves. We're not, eating right and things like that. And so I partnered with a company that has supplements that work from the inside out. And it will help you stay healthy and be happy or build that happiness because you're healthy, because our health affects our emotions affect our health, and that's just such an important part of our journey forward.
I've heard it said, if you don't have your health or if you don't feel good, you literally only have one goal: to feel better. And
Mhm.
then once you have your health, you've got your energy, you can brainstorm, you've got, your wits about you, you're sleeping well, it impacts everything. So I love that you're including health in the overall wellness grief journey support process.
Yeah, I also will be launching my small group coaching program, kind of based on 90 Day U-Turn,
Hmm.
but it's focused more on grief and my grace framework. And then I will be also doing one-on-one coaching because some folks may be earlier in their grief. They may need more one-on-one support than a small group format would provide. And so I have people can schedule calls with me and we'll just talk about where you are in your grief and what's best for you, because grief is very unique to a person. And one path may not be right for another person. So we talk about that and what is the right path forward. You can find out a lot about that on my website. It's resparkyourjoycoaching.com, and you can schedule a call. I also have a blog on there, so there's lots of good articles there where you can, a lot of times when we're in grief, we feel like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this, or I should be further along, or this isn't normal. And it's just trying to break down those myths and give you that knowledge that you're okay wherever you're at in your grief journey. It's okay.
Absolutely. Awesome. 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 Well, Kimberly, thank you so much for sharing your story and just for using your story to give back to people that are 3 steps ahead of you. Grief impacts all of us at some point in our life. And the more that we can have these tools in our toolbox, the coping skills, whether it's about our thoughts, about our health, or behavioral, that we can utilize in the midst of that grief, the more easily we will be able to travel. Now, of course, it's going to be hard. And of course, there's going to be moments. And we're not saying it's going to take the grief away.
No.
But it is saying you don't have to go through grief alone. And what you're experiencing is just a part of the process. Let us walk alongside you and support you on your way. So I'll put the links to Kimberly's socials and to her website down below so you can check her out, book a one-on-one call, and stay tuned for the opening of her program.
And one more point is that once you learn these skills, it's not just related to grief. You can use them in every single challenge, day to day. Driving in the car, I will admit to getting frustrated by drivers in the car, so you can use these skills anytime. And even deeper for me, and this goes back to my son and a lot of the stuff he went through, he didn't have the skills to cope. And so my bigger why is that once you learn these skills, you teach them to your kids. And we raise a generation of kids who have better mental health abilities and the skills to manage their emotions and know what to do to calm themselves down and to take their thoughts captive. And so even beyond us in our grief, it's helping our kids grow up with those skills.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is how we change the legacy of our family, right? By getting out of fight or flight mode ourselves, by living in the world of dreams, by learning these skills so we can navigate life. And then we can model and teach that to our family and literally raise up a healed generation. So thank you, Kimberly, for your story. You guys go check out everything that she's doing, and we'll see you same time, same place next week.